My favorite part of the job is thinking through all of these different components. And, every single different solution in a market space has all sorts of different variables, which makes my job so fun is to understand, the competitor analysis or understand the disease landscape or the treatment landscape as it exists currently. And then positioning, against, where it needs to be positioned to help influence decision across the decision making cycle and the stakeholders who are part of it. And the key principle that we start with is that value is in the eye of the stakeholder, meaning that we need to speak with our brand voice, but we need to listen with the intended audience's ears.
Hello everyone. Welcome in the another episode of 21 Minute Pharma Edge powered by Game of Pharma. And today we have with us a very special guest, Nick Smith. Nick is founder of Loud Canvas Health, Omnichannel Marketing and the Healthcare Marketing Expert, and worked with companies like Eversana. Welcome on the show, Nick.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so Nick, whenever someone thinks of pharma marketing and the healthcare marketing, I think the one keyword first that comes anyone's mind is omni-channel marketing or multi-channel marketing, right? So also you like I saw your profile, right? You have worked with multiple brands like in the pharma, and then you work with both the niche brands as well and the companies who has the large portfolio, right? like uh, like your client like Biogen and the Novo, right? So from your experience, right, how do you define the successful omni-channel marketing strategy, right, in the pharma world today?
Hmm.
Because the present pharma world is too complex, right? And what has changed in the last few years?
Certainly. Well, strategy has to deliver against brand imperatives. At the end of the day, your success in omni-channel is going to depend on putting the right message to the right stakeholder at the exact right time. And the reality is like you said, healthcare is very complex and there's all sorts of different stakeholders. And so it's important to synchronize the business goals with your marketing efforts and your messaging strategy and leverage real world data and visualize that data so you can actually measure against and see how are your marketing efforts doing against those strategic imperatives in a business sense that your C-suite or your brand managers care so much about. The world leading brands are really leveraging data and utilizing behavior data to validate their brand planning. They're utilizing it to qualify their audiences, and then their comparative behavior analytics is allowing them to test their messaging in ways that they never could, just a short time ago, 5, 10 years ago.
Agree, totally agree. And then same like companies right now not just experimenting, right? They have their full-fledged omni-channel strategy on the basis of their previous experiences, right? And with the evolution of the AI, right? More data is coming up into the picture, right? So like everyone asks this question that omni-channel is not just about being everywhere, right? Sometimes people uh thinks that omni-channel is like you need to present on every channel, right? But I think it's more about to being relevant everywhere, right? Like whatever channel that you are leveraging, right? uh be relevant there and target according to your audience, right? How do you balance these personalization and the compliance while designing omni-channel journey for the pharma brands?
Sure. I almost wish they called it omni audience instead of omni channel because at the end of the day, I think you're exactly right. It's less about being everywhere and plastering some sort of brand message or some sort of slogan across billboards and radio and, TV and then all into your digital properties, but really about what message are you trying to portray? What message is more important and most important to the audiences that you're speaking to, recognizing that at the end of the day, they're very, very different. A patient and a caregiver and the communication around a product or a solution or a brand's, narrative is going to look a lot different positioning towards a patient and a caregiver than you would towards a doctor or towards a payer, towards an investor. It's kind of a funny concept because when I first started in the market access space, I can remember long meetings about, what is the payer going to like? And, how is the payer going to listen to us? How can we get our message across? And we kind of just started saying, hey, payers are people too. At the end of the day, just like doctors, they're people too. They've got the same ambitions, they've got the same goals, they consume in very similar ways as other consumers do in the market space. And we have to start to think about, the person on the other side of the communication on that human to human level. And as we break that down, we can understand what problems are they dealing with. And when we really understand, the problems that they're dealing with, and we can put ourselves in their shoes and we can start to kind of ask the questions, do we understand the pain that they feel that goes along with that problem? Because each of our client brands have a product, they have a solution that they're bringing to a disease state, let's say, or to a therapeutic area. And how they bring that product and solution, that value is going to be different to the patient as it's going to be to the doctor or the healthcare providers as it's going to be again to those payers. And so, I think omni-channel is about being everywhere. It's about being kind of everywhere in terms of being in the right places at the right time. But also, it's mostly about being able to put the right message in the right sequence, understanding already what that person is that you're talking to, what their journey already is, so that way you can give them the next best sequence of messaging to drive them towards an outcome that aligns with your strategic imperatives. And so whether that's through personal or semi-personal or non-personal promotional material, that's the whole crux of that conversation around Omni.
As we discussed in our introductory call as well, right? That how Indian healthcare system, like I'm in India, so Indian healthcare system is different from the US one, right? And the one more stakeholders like payer is also comes into the picture, which is a very, very relevant, right? When you are targeting some omni-channel or the digital strategy, right? Because it's a very important part of your product life cycle stage as well, like in the pharma and the healthcare, right? So like how do you approach omni-channel differently at the various stage of this product life cycle, right? Some in the
Yeah.
launch, pre-launch, loss of exclusivity, right? And can you share some contrast in the execution of this strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the question, right? At the end of the day, we could spend, all day just kind of answering that. But I'm glad that you asked that because, that's what I love most about the role that I'm in is its strategy. It's my favorite part of the job is thinking through all of these different components. And, every single different solution in a market space has all sorts of different variables, which makes my job so fun is to understand the competitor analysis or understand the disease landscape or the treatment landscape as it exists currently, and then positioning against where it needs to be positioned to help influence decision across the decision making cycle and the stakeholders who are part of it. And the key principle that we start with is that value is in the eye of the stakeholder, meaning that we need to speak with our brand voice, but we need to listen with the intended audience's ears. The goal is crafting effective omni-channel communication strategies that demonstrate the value of our products or our therapies. And we really need to understand, like, what does value look like to an investor in that scenario versus what does value look like to a patient versus what does value look like to an HCP? What are the needs of a formulary decision maker and how do they differ from the needs of a patient? And so, you can see that each stakeholder is critical to the success of a brand or of a therapy, of a medicine. And, however, that value of the solution is different, for each of the people who are kind of seeing it or hearing that message, that brand success is dependent upon how we position the message and that narrative to the person that we're speaking to. And so, I think to help with this, oftentimes, when working with client brands, we'll develop what's called an omni-channel maturity model, where we kind of plot out the exact digital properties that are required at each stage of the life cycle of the drug. So that way it sort of combines their messaging strategy with their business goals, as well as which omni-channel communications make sense to launch when, and then which areas you'll want to consider. For instance, if you're early, or just beginning to launch into a space, you might consider doing disease state awareness and what does it look like to build a community around that prior to the launch of a drug or a therapy in that space, and how can you leverage the two communities to help ensure a successful launch. Could be one way that you'll want to think through a maturity model, and how by thinking through that you can actually make your success a little bit more sure later on down the season.
Agree. And same, I think like there should be some principles that you should follow while designing a omni-channel marketing, right? And then there should be a plan, right? So same as you do as you go for Salesforce effectiveness, right? You sometimes clear that, yeah, these many reps will be there in the geography region, and you divide the region on the basis of the KOLs and the patient pool, and like lot of other factors should be considered. Same goes with digital as well, right? That what is the behavior of the end customer, right? What is their behavior, where they are present, what is the channel will be more effective, and the main point which will be the more ROI driven, right? And so from there only, like when pharma consider ROI, right? I think for them the main touch point right now also is the physical touch point, right? That is that in-person visit, the rep visit, right? And where lot of pharma still struggles, right? And the product manager struggle is combining their omni-channel marketing. It means like somewhere digital side of their marketing and their physical presence, right? The rep visits and congresses, conferences, right? All other things, right? So, how do you bridge this gap with this omni-channel marketing? Because it's a valid point, and then every pharma marketeers has this thing in their mind, right?
Yeah, and in my experience, what I've noticed is that oftentimes that kind of in-field, rep, or the group that's managing the CAMs or the regional account directors, they oftentimes are very protective about, wanting to ensure that the leads are getting to the right people, that they're protecting the team that they're cultivating, giving them the opportunity to go out and to present that value narrative. And they're very protective about how that value narrative is presented. And for good reason, because you've got, at least here in the United States, guidance like FNAMA 114, ensuring that the, for instance, formulary value of a product can be presented to, a payer audience under certain guidance, and how you're allowed to have that conversation. And so point being, though, is that unfortunately, along with that protection, sometimes comes, kind of like siloed initiatives where, the brand marketing team may be doing one thing and the data and analytics team may be tracking user behavior activity on one sort of thing, but maybe those semi-personal or more personal promotional marketing material isn't getting that data, isn't getting, the ability to actually capture the interactions and what's taking place there, enrich the process, utilizing that feedback as you can in more of those digital properties. And so what we see is oftentimes when those barriers are broken down, when teams start to collaborate with one another and you start to craft strategies that leverage omni-channel approaches to make successful the key account managers and the regional account directors, that's really the key in understanding both the needs and the problems and the pain points of the people who are on the other end of the conversations, whether it's the doctor, HCP, or whether it's a payer, commercial payer, something of that nature, as well as, what the friction points are that you can, take away to increase, the amount of, let's say, patients enrolled, or, prescriptions prescribed, or, whatever the case may be, coverage towards a certain population group. And so each of those things, I think, when leveraged together, that transition point can be as simple as an effective measurement strategy, right? They're both so powerful, and one is never going to, outweigh the other here, and neither one is meant to replace the other. But leveraged and done right and married together, you've got, your business strategies, and you've got your, real world outcomes. You've got your data and your analytics that's measuring what's working, what can be improved upon, and then you've got your brand supported with marketing, with, resources that are non-personal that can be available all the time, pointing them back to a conversation, things of that nature. And so it's really the marrying and the effectiveness of a strategy there. And I would say understanding the unique tagging structure, or strategy around how you can take even a Slim Jim or a leave behind or a budget impact model or something of that nature and get all of the data out of it. Right. So it helps to take that in-person interaction and turn it into a useful conversation that can be compared later on for, quantitative analysis against, other marketing channels, let's say.
I think same. It it's not only about that one channel, right? Like you combine two, three, four channels, right? In a for a single brand, right? And then you measure the effectiveness, right? And you want that whatever that you are doing digitally, or so, like let's rep visit, right? So whatever your channel is, you want that it should be interconnected, right? So if I'm doing rep visit, uh like bribe visit in a week or a month, right? I want that the data should be correct so that I can, if I'm not able to reach out, maybe frequently through rep visit, I can do that via digitally, right? Or some other channel, right? And at the same time, if I will meet there in the conference, right? So we have something to talk about, right? Hey, we have sent you some material via digitally or something. I think have you done that? So there should be just creating the touch points, right? It's more about the creating the touch points from that angle, right? So to make it more fun, okay, like to make it like more engaging, more to know more about you, like I just like I will ask you some of the rapid fire questions, like, okay, and you need to answer it in a word or a phrase, okay? So the first question will be a tool or platform you can't imagine doing omni-channel without.
I would say OmniView, which is our database. It's got over 200 million lives in it. It's got 300 variables, different data points that allow us to understand our audiences, test our marketing strategies before launching them and pushing them into omni distribution, and validate and the different audiences that we're communicating with. So very, very important.
Okay. The next will be patient first, HCP first, or data first. Like, what will be the priority?
It's interesting. I want to say data first. It's difficult because data can be, unfortunately, data can be told so many different ways. And so I would say, if you're looking at a really good data set and you feel like that data is the right data, then I'm going to say data first because you can apply it to, patients, you can apply it to HCPs as well. But we use this kind of analogy: observe, orient, decide, act. And then we repeat that cycle and find greatness in it, right? And so if we can observe the data, if we can orient ourselves to it, if we can decide what to do with this data as it's coming in and act on it, more iteration allows us to see the end results faster, just through repeat cycles of success and failure.
Agree, agree. And same, like data is the king. Data is something that helps you to make your decision more stronger, right? More than a gut feeling, right? So now the next one is my favorite, right? AI in omni-channel. It's overused or underused in pharma.
I'm gonna say underused because I feel like I know the direction and kind of where we're headed. And the spoiler alert, I think Skynet is here, and I think this next generation is going to be, running and pushing us, further and further towards it. I think historically, pharma has been a space of late adaptation towards technology, communication, and marketing. But I think that we're going to see in this next iteration over the course of the next decade, pharma may actually lead the way as it pertains to AI and the use cases of it.
Agree. And if if you are brand manager of some pharma brand, okay, one data point you wish that your team took more seriously.
Um, understanding your target audience's digital footprint as it pertains to your properties, whether those are social media platforms, blogs, appearances on podcasts or, across different publications, congresses, if you had mentioned, previously, but your websites, obviously, but understanding the utilization and what your target audience is doing at really minute levels and basing your strategy decisions off of that, I think is so important. And oftentimes, I think client brands don't have access to it, or the data that they're provided is less clear, or it's only specifically showing marketing efforts by their media buyer, and so it's only a small scoped version of the big picture. But I think more access to data, more understanding and interpretation of that data from people who understand that space, love that space, want to see the best for it, is going to help, bridge the gap there really soon.
So thank you so much, Nick, to be on my show. Okay, like it was very
Thank you for having me.
nice conversation with you.